Hey there, folks. Tonight we're diving into a story about international pressure, economic threats, and the plight of people caught in the middle. This is a tale that spans continents and decades, involving complex political maneuvers and the lives of countless individuals. It's a story about Vietnam, the United States, and a controversial agreement that's raising eyebrows around the world. This agreement has far-reaching implications, not just for the two countries involved, but for the global community as well. Vietnam, facing the looming threat of U.S. trade tariffs, has agreed to speed up the deportation of Vietnamese nationals back to their homeland. This decision comes after intense negotiations and mounting pressure from the U.S. government, which has been pushing for this outcome for years.
That's right, folks. In a move that smacks of economic coercion, the U.S. has seemingly strong-armed Vietnam into accepting deportees it's been reluctant to take back for years. The stakes are high, with billions of dollars in trade hanging in the balance. This agreement has sparked outrage among human rights groups, who see it as a blatant attempt to use trade as a weapon to force Vietnam's hand on immigration. Activists argue that this sets a dangerous precedent, where economic might is used to override human rights considerations. But before we unpack the ethical implications, let's take a trip down memory lane to understand how we got here. The relationship between Vietnam and the United States has been fraught with tension and complexity ever since the Vietnam War. Over the years, both countries have worked to mend their ties, but issues like immigration and trade have often been sticking points. After the Vietnam War, many Vietnamese fled their country and sought refuge in the United States. These refugees built new lives, contributing to the American fabric in countless ways. However, immigration policies have always been a contentious issue, with various administrations taking different stances on how to handle deportations. In recent years, the U.S. has ramped up its efforts to deport individuals with criminal records, including those who have lived in the country for decades. This has led to a significant number of Vietnamese nationals being targeted for deportation, despite their deep roots in American society. The human cost of these deportations is immense. Families are torn apart, individuals are sent back to a country they barely know, and the emotional toll is devastating. Many of these deportees left Vietnam as children and have little to no connection to their homeland. On the economic front, Vietnam is heavily reliant on trade with the United States. The threat of tariffs could cripple its economy, making the decision to comply with U.S. demands a difficult but necessary one. This situation highlights the complex interplay between economics and human rights, where financial considerations often take precedence over ethical concerns. As this story continues to unfold, it raises important questions about the balance of power in international relations and the role of economic leverage in shaping immigration policies. It's a stark reminder of the human impact of political decisions and the ongoing struggle for justice and fairness in a globalized world. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into this complex issue, exploring the perspectives of those affected and the broader implications for international diplomacy. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
The relationship between Vietnam and the United States is a complex one, deeply rooted in a history that spans decades. From the tumultuous years of the Vietnam War to the present day, the two nations have navigated a path marked by both cooperation and conflict. This intricate relationship has seen moments of significant collaboration, such as trade agreements and diplomatic engagements, but it has also faced numerous challenges. One of the most pressing issues in recent years has been Vietnam's hesitance to accept deportees from the United States. This reluctance is not without reason. Many of these deportees are individuals who fled Vietnam during the war or in its immediate aftermath. They left behind a country in turmoil seeking refuge and a new beginning in the United States. Upon arriving in the U.S., these Vietnamese nationals often sought asylum and were welcomed as refugees. Over the years, they have built new lives, established families, and formed tight-knit communities in their adopted homeland. These communities have thrived, contributing to the rich tapestry of American society. They have opened businesses, celebrated cultural traditions, and raised generations who identify as both Vietnamese and American.
The prospect of being uprooted and sent back to a country they barely know is a terrifying thought for many. For some, Vietnam is a distant memory, a place they left as children or have never even seen. The idea of returning to a land that is foreign to them, where they may have no family or support system, is daunting. Adding to the complexity is the fact that many of these individuals are subject to deportation orders for relatively minor offenses, often committed decades ago. These offenses, while legally significant, are sometimes the result of youthful mistakes or misunderstandings. Now they face the heart-wrenching prospect of being torn away from their loved ones and sent to a country they may not even remember. The emotional toll on families is immense as they grapple with the fear of separation and the uncertainty of what lies ahead. This issue has sparked significant debate and protest within the Vietnamese American community and beyond. Advocates argue for more compassionate immigration policies that take into account the unique circumstances of these individuals. Lawmakers and activists continue to push for reforms that would provide a pathway to legal status for those who have built their lives in the U.S. and pose no threat to society. As the debate continues, the hope remains that a solution can be found that honors the contributions of Vietnamese refugees and allows them to remain in the country they now call home.
Enter the Trump administration, with its hardline stance on immigration and penchant for wielding tariffs like a toddler with a spoon. In recent years, the U.S. has ramped up pressure on countries like Vietnam, threatening to impose crippling tariffs on their exports if they don't comply with U.S. deportation demands.
This tactic, while effective in securing Vietnam's cooperation, has been widely condemned as economic bullying. Critics argue that it undermines international norms and sets a dangerous precedent for using trade as leverage in diplomatic disputes.
The U.S. argues that it's simply enforcing its immigration laws and holding other countries accountable for their citizens. But many see this as a thinly veiled attempt to strong-arm developing nations into doing America's bidding, regardless of the human cost.
Lost in the geopolitical maneuvering and economic calculations are the real lives at stake. These are not just numbers on a spreadsheet or pawns in a political game. They are real people with real stories. Thousands of Vietnamese nationals in the United States now face the very real possibility of being deported to a country they barely know. Many of these individuals came to the U.S. as children or young adults, fleeing war and seeking a better life. They have grown up here, attended American schools, and contributed to the economy. Many have spent decades building lives in the U.S., establishing deep roots in their communities. They have opened businesses, bought homes, and raised families. Their children, often U.S. citizens, know no other home. The thought of being uprooted and sent to a country they left long ago is terrifying.
These individuals are not statistics or bargaining chips in a trade war. They are human beings with families, jobs, and dreams. They are our neighbors, our co-workers, and our friends. They contribute to the rich tapestry of American society, bringing their unique cultures and perspectives. The trauma of deportation, of being forcibly removed from their homes and loved ones, cannot be overstated. It is a heart-wrenching experience that leaves deep emotional scars. Families are torn apart, children are left without parents, and communities are disrupted. The psychological impact is profound and long-lasting.
The agreement between Vietnam and the United States has sown fear and uncertainty in Vietnamese communities across America. People who have lived here for decades now find themselves in a precarious situation, unsure of what the future holds. The constant threat of deportation hangs over their heads like a dark cloud. Families live in constant dread of ICE raids, their lives turned upside down by the threat of separation. The anxiety is palpable, affecting every aspect of their daily lives. Parents worry about being taken away from their children, and children fear losing their parents. The community is on edge, living in a state of perpetual fear and uncertainty. Despite the challenges, the Vietnamese community is resilient. They are organizing, advocating, and fighting for their rights. Community leaders are speaking out, support groups are providing assistance, and legal aid organizations are working tirelessly to help those at risk. The fight for justice and human dignity continues as these individuals strive to remain in the country they call home. The contributions of Vietnamese immigrants to American society are immeasurable. They enrich our culture, strengthen our economy, and embody the American dream. It is crucial that we recognize their humanity and stand in solidarity with them during these challenging times. The human cost of deportation expediency is too high to ignore.